Good evening. Welcome again, family. We're pleased to greet you, and as they say in Jamaica, big ups to everyone that is listening. This show is going to be part 2 of our presentation on Jamaica, the journey to America. We have with us tonight 2 wonderful guests that I'll introduce in a couple minutes. But I'd first just like to tell you all that The Journey is a show that was put together to provide information, entertainment, education, and a way of sharing our experiences, hopefully in a way that will be useful to you and also to the rest of the community that is listening. My name is Dr. John Robertson. And those of you who have looked at the website may have seen that I'm a psychologist. Tonight and on this show, I'll be moving both in and out of that role and hopefully having some fun with it. But I also want to introduce you to my co-host and I love to say partner in crime, Charles Morris. Charles?
Well, you know, when you say partner in crime, you know, that's actually kind of a good thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm Charles Morris. Welcome to the Journey 2020. And what I'm going to do this evening, I'm among friends, and so like last week, I learned some things. You know, I will talk about that later. But I actually made some calls, and we will introduce a very good friend of mine. Because of the show last week, I wanted to make sure that he would come on the show this week. Oh. And, of course, right now we're missing Janet, but hopefully we will hear from her soon. And so I'm Charles Morris, and so you can go ahead and just start the show.
Very good. By the way, Sister Janet is Janet Bryan, and if she's looking, I believe she may be in Benham Town tonight. Mm-hmm. And Janet, we're looking forward to you calling in.
And actually, I'm sorry. You know what? Last week I promised. Usually we don't give shout outs, but I told my aunt that I was going to give her a shout out. She's either in Virginia or in the Carolinas, and I'm like, we got so caught up in the show, and I'm sorry, Aunt Esther, I forgot to give you a shout out. Blessings to you. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And also from me, Aunt Esther. Okay.
Yeah, she told me that she was going to be watching. So go ahead.
Very good. To introduce you to our guest tonight, to my left. Is Brother Shantai, and I will introduce him as a singer, a songwriter, a producer, and I also, because as Jamaicans we are multi-talented most of the time, he is also what I found out to be a techno geek, and he may explain that a little bit further as we go along on the show. To my right, the lovely young lady that you see to the right is Miss Sandra Fatney. And Sandra is a mainstay of our Caribbean community here in Orlando. She is the president of the Jamaican American Association of Central Florida and the CEO of Diamond Talent Management, and she may talk about that also. And she tells me that she is also involved in about 7 other organizations. So I will primarily say that she obviously is a community leader. And we have one other individual who will be on our show, and if she gets here and doesn't get here by Jamaican People Time, JPT, and that is Pastor Bridget. Okay?
All right. We're waiting on Pastor Bridget.
Okay. Very good. So I'd like to first start out by asking our guests, very generally, to just talk a little bit about how you see yourself as a Jamaican in America, both the pluses and the minuses that you see. Sandra, would you want to start?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. Greatly appreciate, and really want to commend the journey and what you started, and I do hope that this will continue to be a journey for all. I am Sandra Fatney, as I was introduced, and the way that I see myself here in America, I came here many, many years ago as a child. Started junior high school, and many opportunities that several of us came here for. I took advantage of them all and was able to attend college and continue community work that I really started as a youngster in Jamaica and continued here. And I think it's important that we continue to give back, because as you know, you're not living if you're not giving. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do so just by living here in the United States. And taking advantage of those opportunities has allowed me to make a difference in this community here in Orlando.
When you say make a difference, what does that mean?
Well, make a difference in changing people's lives. I think over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been here in Orlando, something sticks out in my mind that I don't think I can ever put a price on.
There you go.
And that is having a young lady say to me that because of her encounter with me and because of the positive motivation that I've placed in her life, she is no longer considering suicide.
Okay.
And that's huge for me, because there's no price that I can ever put on that.
Okay. I want to share something with you, and he has never heard me say this before. This is Chantai. You know how you should have good people in your circle? And he's a constant reminder of always trying to do the right thing. And he has had an effect on me just from his spirit and just his willingness to just give himself. So he's in my circle. Don't talk to him like I used to, because we both used to work for the same company. But still, he'll call me up from time to time, and he would say, hey brother, how you doing? And I'm like, yeah, okay. But I just wanted to say that because when you said that, it made me think of him, and I think of him more in what he realized and how positive he has been, not only with me, but I know everybody that's in his circle, because I know he's a person that's 99.9.9.9.9% is going to always do the right thing.
Okay. I just want to let you know that
Yes,
Pastor Bridget has arrived.
Come
on in.
Pastor Bridget, we already talked about you on the Jamaican timeline. Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, you know, we got a microphone with your name on it and everything. Come on.
Pastor Bridget, we said you were being cultural.
That's right.
Okay.
See, we're the one that created that.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
All right. All right.
Charles, I want to pick up with the point that you just made about Brother Chantai, and I'm going to ask him to talk in a little bit. But I think that it's so important, that connection that we have as a people to people. Often, again, as Sandra has said, that word that of caring, and it may be two words, just being able to connect and ask, how you doing? How is everything going? Is so important.
Right.
That sense of making a difference. Sometimes we think that we've got to do something big, you know, a march, a rally, etc. But the connection between people is something that I've seen in my clinical practice a lot. But even more than that, just a brother saying to another brother, hey man, how you doing?
Right.
And really meaning it. Or a sister saying to another sister, how you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
Right.
So that people connection is one of the critical glues, I think, that keeps us going as individuals.
Well, don't want to get off topic, but it's part of the same thing. For example, David Washington, you, my pastor, sometimes people who are in my circle, good mentors, good people, people who keep you lifted in spirit, people that you know that you can lean on, and people that can lean on you.
Exactly.
So that's very important, and that's what I try to stress to our young people. It doesn't ever stop, because no matter how old you are, you're still going to need mentors. You're still going to need people around you, because even sometimes you do need that encouraging word. Sometimes you could be kind of shifting a little bit to the right when they need to pull you to the left, or you'd be shifting a little bit to the left and they need to pull you to the right. So those of you out there know what I'm talking about, okay? So, yeah.
Okay. Brother Chantai, we've been talking a lot about connections, and we'd just like to get your point of view as a Jamaican in America, just how you've seen yourself, and your role, both the pluses and the minuses.
Well, I see myself as a Jamaican in America. I'm an ambassador for Jamaica. And not just Jamaica, but for the world, per se. I came to the United States in 1985, and I came to New York. Everybody come to New York, right? And then, it was a nice experience in New York. I spent about 3 years up in New York, went to college up there, because the mission when you come to the United States is education as the core. That's what the parents stress. See, in Jamaica, it's competition to get to the highest level. There's only a small amount of space for few people, like maybe 5%. So most people aspire to come to some place like the United States, where the channel towards higher education is much easier. So most of us, when we come here, that's the first thing we do is sign up for school. That was the first thing I did. The next thing I did after college, I wanted to go higher. The military told me that they would pay for my education. And I said, sure, because that's the mission, right? It's the ultimate goal. So, I got in the military, and I did my 4 years, went to UCF, to the whole college thing, just like we're told to do. A big part of my life is more about people. It's not about me. It's about developing myself so I can be of assistance to other people, gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding so I can help more people. The journey for me has been great. I would say I've met some of the best people who have helped me grow, like you, Charles. You never reminded me that I came from Jamaica. You accepted me as a brother the moment we met. So, to me, my experience coming here, making the transition, has been fairly easy, per se. Because, you have a goal and your objective, and you stick to them. You stick to the friends and family that support the same core, so we all evolve together. And from there, I started working on music like 2005, 2006.
Right. I remember when you started.
Right? The mission for that music was also about people, to give back, because it is important to remember where you're coming from. Because growing up in Jamaica, you had all the folks that would pray for you, tell you to be positive, tell you to be good. They would put their hand in their head and say, God bless you, my son, and stuff like that. But for me, the mission is to have all of us work together in unison, same objective, same goals. It's also important that we all evolve spiritually, because without spirituality, without knowing God, nothing is possible. All this that we've accomplished would be naught. We could never get here without the help of our Almighty God. So, for my journey and where I'm at now, I'm real happy I came to the United States, and
you're here and giving.
I'm here and I'm able to give.
Okay.
Because of our Creator, what He's given me and the people He's given me in my life, I'm able to give back. What else do you want to know?
Profound. Okay. I'd like to get Pastor Bridget, in this conversation. We had planned to talk about immigration tonight, and Pastor Bridget has a story about some of the barriers as well as the opportunities that are here, because in the immigration from Jamaica to here, many individuals have found that they've had various obstacles in the way. and unexpected obstacles at times, wherein some individuals have found it very easy. One of the interesting things I just want to share very briefly about my family and immigration, that I came over as a kid at 5, but I also had a love of history, and I was able to find out some information about my aunts who had come over in one of the early waves of Jamaicans coming to the United States, and this was in the 1920s and 1930s. And I was actually able to find a record of an aunt of mine who came through Ellis Island. And through that experience and her telling of what it was to come to the United States. At that time, she said, and she'd tell the story with a little smile on her face, and she said, we really believed that the streets were paved with gold. Okay. And she said that very quickly she was disabused of that notion when the best job that she could get was as a maid cleaning toilets, for some families that were downtown in Manhattan. But again, that did not stop her. Mm-hmm. And she tells a story about from there, and Brother Shantai, as you were talking about reaching forward, about how she saved her little bit of money here, there, and everywhere. And at one point, she owned several properties in Harlem. And this girl that came from the country in Jamaica. So many of us have that story that to tell. But I'd like Pastor Bridget to tell her story of coming over and some of the challenges that she's facing today.
Well, like he said, I believe everyone has that story because it sounds like my grandmother's story. But for myself, what I'm looking at is Brother Chantel said something that he had a goal. And because I arrived from Jamaica when I was 5 years old, I didn't know my purpose. And I think we spoke about it last week, about the dysfunction of my family. And I ended up doing things, and I always say I'm transparent. I end up doing things in the street that I'm now getting ready to pay for. And though because I'm a pastor, I'm a chaplain, I don't care what kind of title or function I have of my office, immigration isn't looking at that right now. Right now, I'm facing, if I apply for my citizenship, that either I have to pay a lawyer, one is $680. Two, if you have a record of any kind, I was told even if a police officer stops you and just give you a ticket, if you're filing for immigration, you're going to have to justify it. And you're going to have a lawyer for it. Well, you're looking at someone that has been arrested for prostitution, drug dealing, stabbing somebody in the head, you name it, petty theft. So it really frightened me to even try to apply now. It's like they are really trying to push you away from applying for citizenship. My green card expires next month. So I'll find out next month about the naturalization because after 911, it made it really hard for not just, well, I'm hearing differently. It's the, how can I say, I don't want to be politically correct. It's our color.
Just tell it.
It's the black countries, y'all. Y'all, okay? Don't act up because y'all ain't getting citizenship, okay? But, okay, I'm going to keep it real. But really, and you have to, this is why I have started a program called Begin Parenting from the Inside Out. And because the parenting methods that my family used and where I was before, yes, I'm totally changed now, but I'm paying for the decisions that I made. And this is a great price. Because think about it, I've been over here since I was 5 years old. I've never been back to Jamaica. And I know the God I serve, everything will work out because I've seen worse. But just can you imagine I go to Jamaica now? Yeah, I'll be lost. And then I have grandkids. I have my children. So I'm really leaving a lot behind, which we will rebuke that in the name of Jesus. But I'm just saying right now we need to be careful. And the decisions you make, anyone that's in the States now, the decision you make you have consequences behind it.
That's so important, Pastor Bridget, that sense that decisions that you make in your youth, it can come back to haunt you. And so many of our young people, both Black Americans and people from the Caribbean, often think that because they see other youngsters getting arrested and seeming to go on without any problem, that they're going to have the same experience. And that I like you telling it, that it's not a level playing field. That although the law is supposed to treat each equally, if you are not a citizen of this country, and also if you're Black, that you're going to run into some additional roadblocks and barriers if you make the wrong decisions. So I would say if there are young people out there listening to us, that it's not just your mama telling you don't do this or daddy trying to spoil your fun, but they are looking at your future, and your future may depend on you having a clean record and being able to apply for immigration. And it is true that after 9/11, and increasingly, that the immigration standards have been tightening up, so that if you have any kind of blemish, let us call it, on your record, that will come up. I wanted to share something very briefly about me. And again, I had what would have been a minor arrest record when I went to college. I was involved in a civil rights demonstration. And at the time, it was protesting segregated housing in the state of Michigan. Well, many years later, when I went to apply for citizenship, don't you know that that arrest and adjudication, which I had almost forgotten, was right there, on record. I had to go back to Michigan and settle that issue before I could continue processing my citizenship. So even for a good cause.
But what does that mean when you say you had to go back to settle that? What does that mean?
Well, that mean I had to see the judge, okay, and I had the wonderful experience of being locked up in the jail while they were waiting for the trial to be scheduled, and I was concerned because I'd given myself a few days to get there, take care of it, and get back to New York. So, and if I didn't get back in time, I would have lost my job.
Okay.
Luckily, I was able to get, the case adjudicated, had to pay my fine, and I got the fastest thing getting out of town that I could, okay? And I was able to then continue the citizenship. So I'm saying with something that what I would have considered back in those days as something lightweight, of a student protest and getting arrested, again came back to haunt me. Many of our young people now are getting caught up in drug arrests, for marijuana, for various drugs, not realizing the seriousness of that arrest record and that adjudication being on their records. So what all of us, I believe, are saying is that you need to pay attention now to those decisions which may seem to be lightweight, because, again, they may come back to haunt you.
Can I
Go
put
ahead.
something in too? When my mother became a citizen, I was 16 years old, and my sister was 15. She signed my sister up, because if you're under 18, yes, your parents can sign you up as a citizen. You automatically become a citizen. Now, if you wasn't here last week, you'll know that I had special parents, but she didn't.
Okay.
We go name them that.
Right.
Interesting.
There you go.
But she didn't do that for me. So this is why I'm facing this now. But what I want to plug in, if you are a parent and you're going for your citizenship, please, please put your children on there. I don't care how much you don't like them. I don't care what they do. I don't think it's worth that. It's worth that much for them to go through what I'm going through today. And we're going to have another therapy show for my parents.
Okay.
But yeah, just please put in, because this is the, how can I say, the actual, I'm thinking of the word, but this is what you get, the advantage of you becoming a citizen. And I think I found this out when I was 18. It was a little bit too late. But I keep on hearing, and I wish we had an immigration lawyer, but I keep on hearing that if my mother was already a citizen before, when I was underage, something about the waiving of the money and all that. So, just want to plug that.
Well, Pastor Bridget, just so that you know, although we don't have an immigration lawyer, we'll be doing a show down the road where we bring this up again, because I think that it is so important. The debate on immigration has seemed to have a Hispanic face to it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But part of what we're trying to also make our community, and that is the Caribbean community, aware that immigration also greatly affects them. And so if they're not paying attention, again, some of the processes that are being debated in Congress are going to affect them directly. Okay, so Sister Sandra, I'd like to come back to you a bit and just ask, when you came over first to the United States as a youngster, were you a citizen then, or did you get your citizenship later on?
No, that's an interesting question. I was not a citizen.
Okay.
I actually came over on something back then that was known as a multiple. And I had several years. I was 12 years old at the time when I came, and turned 13 shortly thereafter. My mom was deceased at the time, and I came to my aunts and my grandmother, who the immigration law changed around that time, the minute I turned 13, so they could no longer file for me at that time, because I don't know if you know, IRS and immigration laws change on a regular basis. Yeah, very much so. And wasn't able to be here legally until, thanks to Reagan, amnesty came about. And I think a lot of people were able to get their green cards through amnesty, and I'm one of those recipients of getting my green card through that, and went on 5 years later to get my citizenship thereafter. But I'll tell you, it was difficult, but not too difficult for me, because I came here so young. People just automatically thought that I was born here. So I just fit into society, and no one ever questioned it until I started working and I was asked to produce my birth certificate, because it was just automatically thought that I was born here. And it was right around the same time that amnesty came out, so I was really fortunate that way, and went on to college and just continued giving back to the community. And that's where my passion lies, just giving back and helping to counsel anyone that I can about such things as the choices that we make. And I wasn't a saint myself, but I really had some strong upbringing, really, really strong, where had to be home at the age of 18 by 9, and if I wasn't home, the doors would be locked. you know,
Okay.
so faced with those things. So
Okay.
just really realized that I couldn't get out there on my own at that time, so I just had to follow the rules, unfortunately, if I wanted to stay inside. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. You know, interesting. She said, unfortunately, she had to
Right.
follow the rules.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
No, that's funny.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
was saying, unless you have a tough head, you got locked out and didn't care.
But were you speaking because? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
I got put out at 16, and I'm like, bye, see y'all later.
Okay. Yeah. And you know, that's an important point. Some of the parenting that most of us grew up with, that was, you know, the literal statement that I brought you into this world, and I can take you out. And you see, back in my day, we believed it.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Today.
My mother has tried.
No,
Okay. Go ahead.
No, can I ask a question based on what you just said?
Yes.
Because how I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, a lot of times, if you were in Jamaica, it was kind of like a stiff rule, just like in my neighborhood and how I was brought up. But now that we are where we are, and I'm asking from the Jamaican heritage or your history and where we are in raising children now, how does that fit into today's time of raising children? Because I know I would be going to jail. I would, without a doubt, I know they would be coming to arrest me. I know that. So what is it? Can you talk about that?
Well, it's like in the Bible, you know, it said, train up a child in the way he should grow, so when he becomes a man, he never depart from it. In the case of my son, he's 12 years old, right? So basically, from day one, we start establishing rules. Not hard and fast rules, but simple rules he can follow. We started teaching those little rules that if you touch that, it's hot, if you touch that, you're going to get burned, stuff like that. There were times when he would do something and you speak to him and he would just look at you. So, you know, you give him a little bit of wake-up call by a nice little tap on the hand or a nice little tap on the butt.
Wait a minute, now you got a rule. Now you like you're being taped. Now you go around the world. So no.
Yeah, but you know, Jamaican, so you know,
There you go.
we gotta say
You got
these
it.
things out.
Exactly. But you got to keep it real, as I said. Keep it real. Okay.
Right, you know, so you teach him those things. So,
Yeah.
you know, thank God. Praise the Lord. My son
Yeah.
is a very obedient child. You know, he does what he's told. His mom is very strict also. Very strict. Way more stricter than I am. Right? So a lot of time he'd rather be around with me than his mom. Because mom goes, they do this, and that way only.
Right.
Right? But I understand she's trying to teach him that mistakes are costly. And that's the same thing I want to make sure he knows. You point those things out to him so he understands what they are.
Right. And I find that working with kids, and I work a lot with kids, and I find that it's amazing to me. I don't have kids, but I just think it's amazing. And Dr. Ross, you probably can speak on this. But why is it that a lot of parents don't want to have the child held accountable, in the sense of they just kind of don't want them to go through something, or if they do, and I'm speaking for the mothers now, the majority of the time the mothers want to do that mothering thing. And it's almost like, well, how else are you going to learn? Because that's life and that's truth.
Go ahead.
So
go ahead.
It's just I don't know how that's supposed to work if they're not, if you don't teach them to be accountable. If you just want to sugarcoat and hug them, and I don't get that.
Exactly. Yeah, Pastor Bridget, go ahead.
Yes, give me. I mean,
As a certified licensed parenting instructor, but there's 3 types of parenting, and I think the first thing that Jamaicans did was the authoritarian parent, do as I say and not as I do. And then you have the permissive parent that you just let well, there's 4 types, I'm sorry. You allow the child to do what they want to do. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of now, that they let the child do what they want to do. And then it's the oscillating parent, where when, I hope I said that right, oscillating, yes. So that's when the parent allow the child to do what they want to do, but once they do it, they have an outburst. We teach breakthrough parenting. You know, I've worked with Marion on breakthrough parenting. What it is, we cannot teach someone something we don't know.
Okay.
And we have done parenting through what my mama did this like this, my grandmama did this like this, and I'm going to do it like this. And for my family, I hear what my brother says over here and what my sister says over here, but for my family, I have a thing called the fruit that come from the root. And with me, I come from a very stubborn background. Yes, they did not play. Yes, I have been bust upside the head for going to LL Cool J party and doing what I wanted to do. My grandmother and my mother was rivalries. She had all siblings rivalries, my grandmother. Now, the fruit that came from that root, I became hell on wheels. When I look at my daughter today, because I didn't know and I was rebellious of the hurt, because hurt was hurting, hurt was parenting, and I've just got worse and worse. I didn't know who my mother was. I had a lady live in the house with me that they said that was my aunt, and I was going through emotional turmoil. I now saw what I was doing to my own child. And I had to step back and say something is wrong here. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people that truly doesn't know themselves and trying to raise other little people. And that's why we're seeing a cycle follow.
One of the things that in talking to young people, and you try to talk to them to help them to understand, because you work with so many in different ages, and I try to get them to understand that their parents are just people. Okay? Doesn't make them, and I don't say it like this, doesn't make them good parents. They're just people who had children. Does not mean that they know anything about being a mother or a father. And you try to get them to understand that. Now, they may be trying to do their best, and they love you, but that doesn't mean they have a clue on how to be a parent.
That's true.
Okay, and that's one of the things that I do try to get them to understand, and sometimes they kind of look at you, because as you look at your parent, they're supposed to know everything, do everything, be all, they should be able to stop a bullet, jump over a building, stop a locomotive. That's how we see our parents. So
you know, one thing that we don't notice, we have a analogy we do about the mirror. You want to see a parent? Look at the child.
Well, that's one of the things that I would always say. If you want to understand the problem of the child, the majority of the time, just go home and see who opened the door for it. And then just hang out for a minute. Then you go, oh, okay, now I understand your problem.
I told someone, I was telling them on my show just this week, that temper tantrums, you think when you see a 2-year-old, or you go in Walmart and just walk behind the people with those kids, those children, and sit down somewhere. I'm like, you know what? That child do what he wants to do at home, and you're now trying to control him inside the store.
Well, that's funny, because just last week I was in Walmart and I saw a kid running back and forth, and I said to myself, I said, Lord and have mercy, there's nowhere in the world back in the day that could be a black child, because there's nowhere in the world that you would not be allowed to go run around and express yourself like that. Express yourself.
Right. One of the things, Charles, it's interesting that you were gesturing that, because sometimes some of the so-called New Age parenting it seems to have gotten it, I'd say, gotten it wrong in terms of feeling that you have got to excuse the child, for everything. One of the things that I like to say is that, yes, many parents don't have the best parenting skills, but one of the things that I see that can be the most destructive is when there is the do-it-yourself parent who allows the child to define his own limits and parameters, and the inconsistent parent. And I would say that of the two, both are problematic, but the inconsistency and Pastor Bridget, the parent that you were talking about, the do as I say and not as I do.
That's the authoritative.
Exactly. That can be, one of the most destructive kinds of parenting, because the child hears something, but he sees something else.
That's confusing. And I think I didn't put my last parenting, it was the breakthrough parenting. And that is where we teach to build a relationship between you and the child. And that's where now, like my brother said over here, he said, I don't believe in spanking, because that's punishment and between discipline. Okay. Discipline is showing responsibility. Punishment is actually giving physical pain. Now, I tried it with my grandkids. My grandkids is in breakthrough parenting. I use it on them. A child is already afraid of you as the authority. So once you speak with authority, build structure, and show responsibility, we have a thing called R equal TLC. That's responsibility equal thinking, loving, and confidence. We don't allow children to think and problem solve. So now, authority is saying, do as I say. No, do it this way. And then you go maybe smoke a blunt out of their door. Or you go drink somewhere. And they're like, well, Ma, I saw you do this. But breakthrough parenting is saying, if before I tell that child to do that, I am the mirror image that I want my child to see on how to act. And that's when our children will change. It first starts within us.
Now, and I'm going to put myself on the line as a psychologist, okay? And I know that a lot of colleagues in my field will say that spanking, or physically chastising the child is somehow going to get bad results. And I will say that in my practice with certain children, and this is taking the individual character into play, that I have said to parents, I said, parent, you cannot let the child control you. That you have to control the child, because there are some children that are from whatever it may be, character, it may be what they have observed earlier in life, who are out of control. And the important thing, before someone else has to discipline that child, it's important that the parent learn how to discipline the child.
Okay, so I want to challenge you with that one.
Okay.
Okay, and he's right, because you said something so key, is as they have grown and what they might have experienced. Because that's why I said the root that now turns into the fruit. Is it a rotten fruit? Because now, as I'm growing up, and as psychologists, we're going to talk, psychologically, between birth and 4 years old, what they're supposed to be learning, as Erickson said, they're supposed to be learning their ego. And my brother said over here that he taught from the birthing stage. And once you teach them from that stage, now if you stay consistent, my granddaughter is 5 years old. From the birthing stage, my granddaughter and my grandson, from the birthing stage, we've been teaching. When I taught, as teaching them, If my granddaughter do something, the first thing she do is stand like this. I'm sorry. I never have to step to her and hit her. I never have to hit my grandson. You know why? Because they have learned that respect and boundaries. That's enough. We don't teach the boundaries. And he taught the boundaries at 1. You were teaching the boundaries. So now he knows, I can't try my parents. You know, so
that's it. Well,
go ahead.
Pastor Bridget, I'm challenge you back, and that is, now, as a grandparent, you see, you have special status. Okay?
Well, they do it with my daughter. They don't play with my daughter. They don't play with their dad. They respect adults. If my grandkids come to your house, you love them.
And I want to say that I think that in principle, that is great, and I would agree with you. You know, in theory, one of the problems that we're running into, and I want to get back into both culture, you know, and the change, the shifts in culture from the Jamaican roots to the American roots. Many of our children will receive the kind of good beginnings, you know, from the roots. Some of the problems are that they see, once they get out of the home environment, a whole nother type of options that they have. And often the options that they are exposed to are those options that, as parents, you would say, that's the last thing I want my child to be exposed to. And that includes not only peers, the internet, you know, their school friends, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that in addition, I think that home training is number 1. Okay. The consistency, I would say, is number 2. The third thing, and this is a problem for many of our parents, is that sense of being involved truly in their children's lives.
That's it. I like
How many of our children that the parents will provide clothing, provide food, etc., but in terms of really knowing what their children are doing, where they are, who their friends are, what their aspirations are, what their fears are, you know, and who they are as children. Many of the individuals that I run into fall down in that category.
Can I tell a story?
Go ahead.
My grandson, he came to spend the summer with me. I don't know why. I didn't ask for him.
Go ahead.
He got a cooked meal and everything. So as he was with me for the summer, he would sit at my feet. And he wants to talk to me. So he's on the internet, he gets my phone, and he's like, Grandma, you like this girl? I'm like, who is she? Oh, this girl at school. You know, I like her, but, you know, I like this one too. I'm like, well, so, young man, and I teach him responsibility. I know you like these girls, but what can you do for them? What are you doing in school? But you know what? The story is, he feels so comfortable with us. He just doesn't do it with me. He does it with his other grandparents. He does it with his mom. You know, and he feels so comfortable with us that he's like, I can share my life with you.
Well, see, the funny thing is that one of you, you know, I'm not a parent, but I think it's just funny because I sit and I listen and I'm taking all of this in because I'm thinking back to when I was a kid. And I'm trying to think whether or not what would have happened if my parents didn't speak.
I better not have done that.
No. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking about the personalities because my mother had 6 kids. Okay, so now I'm trying to think her disciplining 6 kids. All right, so I'm trying to think because we was raised really by her aunt, so she was our great aunt. And she was way more of a disciplined person than my mother. But I'm trying to think that if she didn't spank us, I'm trying to think what that house would have been like, especially when you were talking about your grandson. But knowing the spirit of my oldest brother, that wouldn't have, no. Because even through the discipline, because you just had to tell me one time. You didn't have to tell me 3 or 4 times. So I was trying to think like, why does They have to tell my brother 5 and 6 times. Why you don't get it?
Can I say something about that?
So I'm just talking about the different spirits now.
That's
Right,
what I was going
right.
to go to.
So,
Spirits.
so
Okay.
the other thing too is back to the question, because let's just say your grandparents from back in the day, if you bring them up to times now and they get a chance to raise children over here in America, so that's what I'm saying. What would that be like? So that was the original question of like, how you think they would handle that? Because based on knowing my aunt, even if she was old enough and still had the strength, let's just say the spirit when she was in her 40s and was raising my child, she probably would go to jail. Probably so. So, and she was a good woman, but my aunt was the one who taught us. She was the one who took us to church. She was the one who taught us, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. She was the one that had structure, and you didn't talk back. When you walk in the room, you didn't talk when they were talking. A perfect example. This is what you learn as a child. My aunt was a little country woman who I grew up with chickens and all this other stuff. She used to always say foots, not feet, foots.
Okay.
Okay? But I learned that if she said foots, it wasn't, Aunt Lula, you need to say feet, because you were not to correct her. Because foots worked. It worked.
But the Bible says that.
Right. No,
The
right.
Bible says never rebuke
Right.
an older person.
But-
so she was teaching. They were teaching
But
respect.
my point was, that's what I'm trying to say. The respect was there, that even if she said foots, you understood and you was like, foots are good. So that's what I'm trying to say. So
One of the things that, as we're drawing near to the close of our program, I want to say that when we talk about the differences in culture, I believe that with the Jamaicans in America, that we're all adjusting to continuously to American culture. I think that in terms of Black America, that Black America is also adjusting to the culture as it changes. So we're all on a journey for where we have not only a comfort level, but where we can produce the healthiest families in our own way. And one of the things, Charles, before we run out of time, that I'd love to do, if I can, that Sandra, Sister Sandra, and the Jamaican American Association has done some very important work here in Central Florida on that theme of giving back. And I think part of their thing, Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong, is to be able to have that next generation that is coming up have something that they can be proud of, that they can look to in terms of value, and know that it is not just what they're getting in school, but that there's a culture that can help to inform and strengthen their lives. So I'd like you to talk about that.
Thank you for touching upon that, Dr. Robertson. 28 years ago, I'll take you back there briefly. 28 years ago, Marjorie Brown and several other members of this community sat down on her back porch and decided that you had lots of Jamaicans and people from the Caribbean coming to Central Florida, and there was nothing here for them to get together, meet, talk about, or make a difference in the community. So they started the Jamaican American Association, which back then it wasn't Jamaican American Association. It's gone through 2 name changes. It was the West Indian Civic Association, then it was the Caribbean Society. It is now the Jamaican American Association, and that happened because there were more Jamaicans there than any other Caribbean islands. And I'll tell you, out of the Jamaican American Association, all the other 12 associations that are of Caribbean descent formed out of the Jamaican American Association. And when they sat down 28 years ago, one of the first goals that they had in mind was to own a building, a place where we can help our young people. Let's be proactive in having an after-school program and having a mentoring program and helping to spread their culture and remind them of where we're from as we continue to grow. And we're fortunate to say we're going to fast forward to 2013. We have accomplished that goal. We now have a place to call home, a place where we can spread this history of Jamaica, keep the history alive, a place where we can have a library of what we've done here and abroad and everywhere, because as you know, Jamaicans are everywhere. I heard you say, Dr. Robertson, that you went to Norway.
Yes.
And you had Jamaicans there. They're in Newfoundland, they're everywhere. They're in Alaska, they're everywhere. And we're proud to say that we can continue that, and we really, really need the community's help to get this off and running off the ground. It was purchased February 28th, 2013 of this year, and I really want to thank you so much, the community, for coming together. We did it with everyone's help, but now it belongs to the community. Now we need everyone's help. It's like giving birth. We need the entire village now to raise this child and to have everything that we ever wanted to continue our heritage, just like every other group does. The Hispanics, the Jews, everyone, they continue their heritage. Don't be ashamed of it. I think a lot of us are, and that location, 4610 North Hiawassee Road, is going to be that location that makes a difference in Central Florida. And we're really, really happy about what the plans are for this. A dedicatory date has not been established yet, because right now it's a house and we have great plans for it, waiting for an architecture to get involved, and there's lots of land space. And I want to thank just the members of the association, the members of this community, everyone that had their sweat, their tears, their finances, their everything to make it happen. I really, really want to say a heartfelt thanks. And there's lots more to come. We need everyone's help, so we're going to be making an appeal. You're going to hear me in everyone's radio show, talking to everyone. We've had people started approaching us and just making a difference. And at the ball that we just had on Saturday, 400 people came out to help us realize this and make this happen. So we need everyone's help. Thank you for allowing me to say that, and just to make an appeal to the community, because we are going to continue making a difference. The theme this year was building communities, building lives, and we intend to do just that.
Sister Sandra, how can they get in contact with you or follow up on if they want to participate in this?
Sure, absolutely. Reach out to me by email, and that's Sandra Fatmi, Fatmi, at AOL.com. Sandra, Fatmi, at AOL.com. Log on to our website at www.JamaicanAmericanAssociation.com, or by simply calling me at 770-789-7004.
Okay, that was a very heartfelt attempt, and a good commercial too. Okay, I believe we have just 1 minute, and if I can, I think that closing out, as we have traditionally in this program, with a spiritual word would be great. So I'd like to ask one of my panelists if they would close us out with a spiritual word.
I'm like trying to pass the mic now. Well, I think we said it tonight, is that train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart. That's it.
Okay, very good. Go.
No. Go ahead.
Want me to say something?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We have about 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I want to say to the community, to everyone, just let's live as one aim, one goal, one destiny.
Okay.
Let's focus on that.
And with that, we'll be closing out, again, for this week. Next week, we have an exciting program where we're going to bring you, on the cusp of the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, some individuals who have participated in the civil rights struggle back then and are continuing now. So join us again on the journey. Again, as we say, the journey is from you to me and from me to you. Good night.